This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel this afternoon. And let me tell you, we got ourselves a little something interesting I think I should take a look at since I haven't pretty much all year, and that being the defensive scoring or defensive point share for the Edmonton Oilers so far through 2019-2020. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I had good news to report. Like normally I like reporting the good news and telling you the positive side of things. But again, this is almost not that positive, technically speaking. This is about same as on pace as last season for the Edmonton Oilers. And one thing I talked about last year quite a bit was how terrible the effort was from our defensemen for points. Now that said, yeah, you know what? It's not always the defensemen's fault they don't get points, but still, guys, like this Oilers team struggles to find defensemen that'll put up points, right? Like I honestly named the last 60-point defenseman we had. That's kind of where I'm going with that. But right, is it's a difficult task for us as Oilers fans to find those defensemen that'll score. And I'm going to throw you some stats right now in regards to who has points for us so far this year, and tell me realistically if anyone's jumping off the page at you right now, because problem is, well, you'll see one name that'll jump off the page at a number of points. So Oscar Clefbaum has done better than last year. He only had 28 points last year. He has 33 points through 59 games played so far this year. And a reminder, there is still plenty of room to score points this season. It's just a matter of where we're sitting at this point of the year. I thought we'd check in. So Clefbaum's at 33 points this season. You've got Darnell Nurse at 32. And I mean, Darnell Nurse has been on an absolute tear the last 3 or 4 games in terms of points. In fact, he let me go over to his hockey reference page here. I'm going to get you how many points Darnell Nurse has in his last few games, because this has been the sneakiest player on the Oilers racking up game points, I think. Realistically speaking, you take a look at what he's done the last 3 games. Okay, so he's pointless in the 2 prior, but the last 3 games, Darnell Nurse has pretty much 2 points per game. He's averaged 3 assists against Nashville, 1 assist against Dallas, and 2 assists against Chicago. So you talk about that, right? He's at 32 points on the year. He goes in 65 games, only had 26 points. Now in 68 games played, he has 32 points. So that's one thing we really like to see, and I think that's a big bonus for anyone that's talking about that contract not being worth it, is if Darnell Nurse isn't going to be able to play the most stellar defense, start producing offensively. And that's one thing we were harping on him a lot recently for, is the one knee Nurse. Well, all of a sudden he starts putting up points, and I think we can kind of tone back the rhetoric for a couple of weeks here for now. And okay, the problem is you go from Clefbaum and Darnell Nurse in a combined over, right? They're just about over 127 games played this season. Guess what? They combined for a total of 65 points. Well, let me tell you, our next defensive scorer is Ethan Bear with 21 points. Well, let me tell you something else here, shall I? Those 3 top scorers for us on the blue line have 5, 5, and 5 goals respectively. That's actually a pretty good even spread, but still, it just does nothing, right? Is the offensive production from the blue line goal scoring wise dead. The points share not bad. And then you get moved down the list, and this is where it starts getting really ugly, is Caleb Jones, only 8 points so far this year. That's kind of a letdown compared to what he did in those games last year where he had 6 points. That said, he's also played minor minutes and kind of had to play different roles this season on the blue line, been in the minors at times, and probably just hasn't fully found it. And the other thing, too, he has 3 goals of those 8 points, so that's a nice little spread for sure. Matt Benning, I think this is the disappointment of the year on the blue line comparatively, right? He had 17 points last year, only 8 points this year in 41 games. But that said, right, if he plays all 82, we're right close. We're at 16, and he's right perfect where he should be for a third pairing defenseman. Problem is, he's only at 8 so far this year, so still plenty of time to keep the room growing, right? There's plenty of time to put pucks home. And you think about this, if we clinch a playoff spot with 2 or 3 games remaining, guys like Caleb Jones, guys like Matt Benning will see a lot more ice time in the last few games of the season, no doubt about it. Chris Russell, 8 points this year. Again, guys, Chris Russell, not a guy we count on for points, but a guy that still needs to be in the 10, 12, 13, 15, 17 point range, and he's only sitting there at 8 through 53 games. Has dealt with injuries too, so that is part of it. But the guy that really is hurting us the most, we'll forget about William Lagesson, we'll forget about Mike Green, there's Joel Pearson, there's Brandon Manning, there's several other guys involved, but the guys on the roster right now that are pretty much the biggest chunk of the point share possible. William Lagesson's played 8 games, no points, so that's a little bit of a disappointment. He just got sent down to the minors, so that take him off the roster. Mike Green, 2 games injured. Well, you know what? We'll probably see Mike Green be a little bit more productive when he returns, if he returns in time for this end of the season. I honestly can't remember what the timeline off the top of my head is for Mike Green, but those aren't the disappointments. The biggest disappointment is the simple fact that Adam Larsson, through 46 games played this year, only has a total of 6 points. That's the one that hurts us, right? And that's kind of, I think, in my estimation of things, when I was thinking, guys, how did the Oilers be a better team in 1920, right? At the start of the year, I've said, you know what? Adam Larsson is the key. Adam Larsson scoring points, shutting it down defensively. Guys, the Oilers are going to be unstoppable if that is the case. So that would be not the case this year, as Adam Larsson injured for quite a chunk. He's been very good as of late. Like, Adam Larsson has been unreal as of late, but the problem is the points still aren't there, and the production just, you need just a little bit more for $4 million, right? You were paying Chris Russell $4 million to produce 8 points on the third pair, and we're paying Adam Larsson on the first, second pair, whatever you call it, to produce 6. Yeah, I don't care what you value Adam Larsson as. You need a bit more production out of that for sure. So let me flip over to this graphic I built up for you. It's just a fun little one right here to kind of tell you how out of tune I am, or out of line I am with yelling about it again this year compared to last year. Points by a defenseman through 1920. 119 points through 68 games. That is every single defenseman we have used this year. Their point totals added into one summary. Problem is, last year the points by a defenseman through the 82 games we played in 18-19, a total of 141 points. So, how many points do the Oilers need per game out of their defensemen in their remaining 14 games this season to get those points on the board? Well, it's simply put, you need 1.58 points per game. So now having Clefbaum back on the power play, that should help pretty much guarantee of a defenseman point per game. So you just need to find that other guy that's going to contribute an extra point per game, right? Whether it be Darnell Nurse, Adam Larsson, Caleb Jones, Ethan Bear, Chris Russell, Matt Benning. Figure it out. We'll find somebody. That's kind of where I'm going with that. And the Oilers at this point are averaging 1.75 points per game from defensemen this season. So not bad, right? That's actually a pretty good little pace for our defensemen so far this year. And realistically speaking, that would outpace us from last year, on pace to finish with 144 points from defensemen this season. So it would be just slightly, marginally better than last year. So if we can actually keep this pace closer to about 2 instead of 1.75 or 1.58, we will be fine, we will be dandy, we will be gold. So that's kind of the discussion, right? Is simply put, the Oilers have a hard time getting points out of defensemen. So far this year, we're on pace to be better than last year, using quite a few less defensemen. But still, that said, it's nowhere near the glamorous numbers you'd like to be seeing out of the guys, especially considering we're paying 4 defensemen $4 million or more as of next year to get the job done. Or, do I got that correct? Hold on. Yes, because Darnell Nurse, Chris Russell, Adam Larsson, and Oscar Clefbaum. Right now, though, you're paying 4 defensemen $3.2 million or more to get this job done. So, guys, interesting to see, right? What do you do? What do you do? Guys, I'm Tyson, this is Dolynny TV. What I want you to do is go do some research, kind of give me your thoughts on who could be that guy, right? As I talked about it, Clefbaum on the power play, book it, point per game pretty much the rest of the way home for him, or one of our other defensemen will get a point. So you're guaranteed a point out of our defensemen the rest of the year. Now what I want you to do is do your research and figure out who is going to be that second defenseman to contribute an extra point, right? Get us to 2 points per game the rest of the way home from our defensemen? Is it Ethan Bear? Is it Darnell Nurse? Is it Oscar Clefbaum? Is it going to be Adam Larson, Caleb Jones, Matt Benning, Chris Russell? You figure it out and let me know in the comments section down below. Guys, I'm Tyson, this is Dolynny TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will catch you in the next one.